cybersecurity is huge. I mean, it's with all of the, the Sony breach and all of the Target and Home Depot, and you can go down the list. All of these breaches, I think, have made it an issue that is really on top of mind for the public at large. And so a lot of what we're doing, we co-chair the cybersecurity subcommittee, and so a lot of the work that we do is focused on dealing with those security issues. And the big project that we've just undertaken is to look at the concept of cybersecurity due diligence in the context of M&A transactions.
Yeah, it's important increasingly. The Sony case illustrated this a little bit, and it's the part that many people have overlooked in that case. All of Sony's computers were severely damaged. Sony, fortunately, is not critical infrastructure, but imagine the same thing happening to a critical infrastructure company like TVA, providing electricity over a broad region. If there's a kinetic attack that damages their ability to operate, this causes severe problems, and companies are having to look at that increasingly in the context of M&A transactions. Is your target going to be prepared for that? And second, if your main interest in the target company is in their intellectual property portfolio, their patentable inventions that haven't been filed for yet, and they suffer a severe breach and you're not aware of that, and those invention documents have been stolen or exfiltrated, will the adversary who took them sell them to somebody else who will then file the patent application before your target company could? So there could be a severe diminution in the value of that company, and that makes due diligence and cybersecurity assessments of target companies that much more important, and that's why we're working on a best practices guide for such activity.
And I would add too, I mean, even if the target company that you're looking at acquiring has not had a major cybersecurity incident, if their cybersecurity is sufficiently poor that they're at risk, that's something you'd probably like to know if the data or the intellectual property is an important part of the transaction.
And one follow-on to that, let's assume that their cybersecurity is in fact excellent, but that, like many companies, they're unaware that they have been breached and that there's malware residing already on their systems, providing an adversary with information about them. You acquire them, you merge your IT systems with theirs, and suddenly yours now has that malware on it. Everybody keeps saying, well, this is now the game-changing breach. Target, Home Depot, Sony. I think we're going to continue to see these because the immediate fallout isn't always necessarily negative for companies. Sony's stock price subsequently has gone up. The movie they withheld from release has apparently done well online. And so there's a mixed message out there, but in fact, again, if you're operating a critical infrastructure company, whether it's a telecom, energy, oil and gas, waste management, defense, aerospace, if your operations are severely compromised, your stock price will suffer. It's a much safer assumption to assume that you don't realize the extent to which you already have been or are in the process of being breached. And I don't think anybody has a simple solution for defending, and that means that more and more attention should be going to intrusion detection, response and recovery, and disaster recovery, so that, for example, if the grid were to be brought down in part of the country, how well prepared is your company to address being without electricity for a sustained period of time? And I don't mean a weather-related outage such as Hurricane Sandy caused for several weeks, but it could be months if it was the grid that was damaged. And it doesn't take a lot of money invested to come up with such plans, but it does take people thinking long and hard about it in order to be properly prepared.
The other thing I would add is I think companies need to recognize that security is a process, and it's not, well, let me back up. Security is a relative concept. The security that is appropriate for one company may be very different than what's appropriate for another company. So the fact that you do certain things, firewalls, virus software, intrusion detection, what have you, may or may not be appropriate for your company. The key is that companies need to do a risk assessment. They need to look at what risks, what threats they face, and then based on their unique situation, they need to adopt security controls that are responsive to the risks they face. And that's the key thing that I think a lot of people have yet to really realize. And so they need to go through that process. And it's a repetitive process. You're never done, basically.
Now, if you put Tom's observations together with mine, one of the things a company should be thinking immediately of doing is identifying what are its most valuable data. Are they trade secrets? If those trade secrets are exfiltrated, will they remain trade secrets? Are they patentable inventions? If those are stolen, and now that we're in a first-to-file patent system, will someone else file them before you have that opportunity? So how will you protect those? Putting them on computers that are connected to the internet is not the way to protect them. Insisting that they be on computers may not, in fact, be a wise thing. You may want to just keep them in hard copy so that they can't be breached. But I think the most important thing is to identify your valuable digital assets and remove them from access from the internet.